Alright, so today is Saturday, February 6th. So if you're new to my channel, every Saturday I have a Q&A session where I make a video response of all and any question that was asked on Monday's Ask Yoon video. So this coming Monday, if you have any questions, save the questions for Monday, and throughout the week I'll make a video response, or on Saturday I have a huge Q&A session like this where I answer just a bunch of questions and I just knock it out. Alright, so to begin, first question comes from future sailor Zayas. And future sailor Zayas asks, do I know anything about Aircrew? So, I don't know much about Aircrew. However, I have heard, I'm not too sure if it's true, but I have heard that they get promoted faster than the normal surface. And they get paid more. They have the, if you work out in the flight deck where the planes, go out in and out, you get a hazardous duty pay because it is dangerous, and you get promoted faster. Now, I'm sure certain rates get promoted faster than others, and other rates within the air don't get promoted as fast, and they work long hours is what I heard, and they get dirty after 12 hours a day of work. So, second question comes from Acegirl, asking me about, can you wear retainers in boot camp? Yes, I have seen people with retainers in boot camp. So you just make sure you bring everything that you want to, like you have your retainer, you put your retainer in that little box, and then you can keep that when you're in boot camp. So, next question comes from 1337 Dragon X. Now, people, for some reason, for whatever reason, I have a video of me covering the bank topic. Like, do I want to switch to a different bank, or should I keep my bank? I already have a video, links down in the description. Someone every single week, and it's usually the same people, always ask me about the bank video for some reason. So also Dragon X asks, how do you set up a direct deposit when you're in boot camp? So make sure you bring all your proper paperwork. So in your start guide, it has, make sure you have your account number, savings number, like checkings number, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you have that information. So what I did, I went to my bank, I have Bank of America, and I just asked them, hey, I need this information because I'm going to the Navy boot camp. Can you print me one? And then they printed out a void check, and then I just took that, went to boot camp, and processed it right there. So make sure you check up with your recruiter, and also go to your bank and get the necessary information from them. Alright, so next question comes from future sailor Davis, and this is a popular question that's been out recently for whatever reason. Now, I know in Army, my brother is in the Army, he has a college degree, and he came into the Army as an E4. But in the Navy, guys, in the Navy, that is not the case. Doesn't matter what you do, you cannot come out of Navy boot camp as an E4. If you do, then you're like, I don't even know what to call you. It's like the next biggest thing like in the world. No one coming out of Navy boot camp that I've heard of or that's ever been done before comes out as an E4. It's always an E3. Alright? Doesn't matter if you did NJROTC, doesn't matter if you were the top recruit of all time, or if you have a college degree, you're always going to be E4, or E3 coming out of boot camp. Okay? Now, to be an E4, you have to know something about your job, right? To know about your job, you have to go to A school, and after A school, you take your test within a certain time, right? Then you get promoted to E4, all right? And that's that. So, next question comes from Tru-Q. So, do they pull wisdom teeth during P-Days? P-Days is the first week when you get to boot camp. It's called the processing week. Now, the processing week, you get there, they fill out your paperwork, they check your medical, they check your dental during that time. Now, they don't pull out your wisdom teeth until towards the middle of boot camp. They have certain days designated for that. Now, not everyone is going to get their wisdom teeth pulled out. Okay, some people, it hasn't fully grown, or some people, it needs extra work that they're going to do in A school, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, expect your wisdom teeth to be pulled out in boot camp. if you have wisdom teeth. Okay, during processing week, the first week, they're just going to take an X-ray and check the how your wisdom teeth is, and then towards the middle, then they're going to pull it out. So my best recommendation is, if your finances allow, get your wisdom teeth pulled before you enter boot camp. Because like I said before, when you are in boot camp, you don't want to have to worry about your mouth hurting because you got your wisdom teeth pulled and you're bleeding and you're sleeping and you're drooling blood because you pulled your wisdom teeth pulled. Now you can't eat properly because your mouth hurts. At the same time, you have stress throughout boot camp. That's stress in boot camp in general. And number 4, because you can't eat properly, you can't do the workouts with the full energy, right? You don't want to deal with all that, so you just want to deal with boot camp stress when you're in boot camp. All right, next question comes from future sailor Belmonte. So do you get OC sprayed in boot camp? OC spray is the pepper spray that like the police carry around, that spray people or females carry around for personal safety. No, you don't get OC sprayed in boot camp. Now, do people like logistics specialists? I've heard LSs or just in normal rates in general. I've heard some people get pepper sprayed, but for the most part, I know security carries pepper spray, and for you to carry around pepper spray in uniform, you have to be pepper sprayed at once. All right, so normal rates, I don't think you get pepper sprayed. Like, I haven't been pepper sprayed. I don't think I will be pepper sprayed unless I decide to go to security. Then I will be pepper sprayed because I will be carrying around the OC spray. But other than that, you don't really have to worry about that. All right, so next question comes from Scott S. So, religious services in boot camp and in the fleet. Now, overall, when you're in boot camp, they do accommodate a lot of the religious services. They have what's called a chapel, and they have chaplains, which are officers in certain religious branches, like Buddhism, like Wiccan, Earth, Christianity, like bunch of different stuff. You can find it in Navy boot camps online RTC's webpage for religious services of all the different services that they have. They have a lot. So they have something for everybody. They have what's called a chapel. Okay, so when you're boot camp, you can take advantage of that on like Saturday and like Sunday services. Now, however, when you are in A school, right? When you're in A school, depending on the size of your A school, it's going to depend on how many chaplains are there. So let's say you're a Buddhist, you're coming in, and then when you're in boot camp, they have boot camp Buddhist services that you can take advantage of. But when you're in A school, let's say it's a small base, not a lot of people, right? Not a lot of people, and there's only 2 chaplains, and those 2 chaplains are like Catholic chaplains, right? Then, you can't really fully practice Buddhism because there's Catholic chaplains, right? But when you're also in the fleet, I'm sure they're going to have as much chaplains appealing to the majority of religion in the fleet, but it's not going to appeal to all the many different types of religions, like, Wiccan and all that kind of stuff. All right, so also Scott asks, can you change your taxes, like, tax percentage or, whatever? Can you alter your taxes? As far as I know, no, but you might be able to work something out. That is something that you would have to ask the personnel specialists or the officers of PSs when you are in the Navy. So, next question comes from Operator Delta. Do I know anything about ISs? It looks fun, and what do I think? So, I did a video about this before. What rate should you pick? Now, ISs, they work with a lot of computers. So, if you want to go with ISs, right, what I recommend is, what's your end game? What's your end game goal? Like, do you want to work with computers after you finish boot camp? Like, do you want to be, fix computers for companies or whatever? Then coming into the Navy, as an IS, knowing, working with computers, then that makes sense, right? You want to work with computers after, your Navy career as a career path. And then, you spend time in the Navy, working with computers. Then that makes sense to do, right? So as far as do I think it's fun? It's totally up to you. I'm not a computer guy. I don't know much about computers. If my computer got a virus, I don't know what to do with it. I'll have to take it to someone who knows much more about me, much more about computers than me. But if you like computers, then do that. So whatever rate you choose, if you like what that rate is, like for me, I work with, supply, dealing with merchandise inventory. Like in the future, I want to own my own business. So I have to know how to deal with merchandise and inventory. So it makes sense for me to do my rate, right? I would have much loved and preferred to be MC, mass communications, because I make a lot of videos, right? But the Navy decided, you know what, we're not gonna give him that rate. But anyway, next question comes from future sailor Nguyen. Do you do cadences when you're in boot camp, when you run? Yes, you do cadences. Cadence when you run. At the same time, when you march, you also do cadence. Now, those are different types of cadences. There's working out cadence, and there's also marching cadence. So when you are in boot camp, you have a chance to be A-Rock, which they are the ones who do cadences. Now, when I first joined in, I thought it was going to be difficult. I was like, man, I can't sing. I can't do that. But guys, at first it's intimidating. At first it is intimidating. First few A-Rocks are probably going to get fired. But I highly recommend that you try it and take it out. I mean, you try it out because it is very, very fun. I didn't get to try it out when I was in a boot camp because I was scared. But when I was in A school, I gave it a shot. I didn't try it for A-Rock in particular, but when we were running, when we were working out, I would sing some cadences, and it was pretty fun, and it's pretty easy. All right, so if you couldn't do cadence really, really well, like you are pretty like the top dog when you're in boot camp and when you're in A school. Like everyone's gonna love you for it if you do cadence really, really well. So next question comes from Deon B. So when you have BAH, basic allowance for housing, can you live off base with somebody else, whether it be like friends or family? So for the most part, from what I hear, when you are in a command, like normal commands, want you to be at least E5, Petty Officer 2nd class, when you are applying for BAH. Now I know some people, the command I'm in is a much bigger command, so they have much more money that they can give out to sailors to accommodate as much needs as possible. So yes, I have heard of people with BAH living outside of base, living with somebody else that is not in the Navy, that is not a dependent. Okay, so that is that. Now that's also going to differ with command by command. All right. So next question from Dion is, do the education you learn from A school, does it count towards some type of college credits? Yes, anything that we learn in the Navy is going to count towards some type of credit in college. All right, so make sure you have the proper paperwork from start to finish of your Navy career. All right, so if you have an A school completion certificate of logistics specialist, make sure you have that. All right, make sure you keep that in a safe place. Any completion, any courses that you take when you're in the Navy is going to count towards something in the civilian world in the college. All right, so make sure you have all the paperwork that is necessary. All right, now I'm not too sure exactly how much credit, but it counts towards something. All right, so next question comes from future sailor Yelder. Future sailor Yelder asks, not being up to physical standard, can you be discharged from a rate, for example, Master at Arms? Now, as far as I know, as long as you can pass the physical fitness assessment or PRT, physical readiness test, you're going to be okay, A-okay. Okay, like there's no other physical standard unless you're in the spec ops, like special warfare, which physical standard is much more higher, or if you're in the nuke program, the physical standard is much more higher. But if you're in the normal rates, like in MA, LS, YN, AOs, ABH, whatever, the normal enlist rates, the physical standard is pretty all the same throughout, and you shouldn't really have to worry about being discharged as long as you can pass the PFA. Okay. Now, if you fail the PFA multiple times, I think it's twice or three. No, I think it's 3 times. I'm not too sure. It's either failing it twice or 3 times. Then not only are you going to be discharged from your job, you're going to be out of the Navy for good because you can't pass your PFA, which is pretty ridiculous. All right, so next question comes from Skilled 093. When are you given orders? So I've seen it both ways. I've seen someone get orders when I was in boot camp, that they got their orders to where they go, what their A school was, and I've also seen people get orders when they were in boot camp towards the end. So it's either going to go one or two ways, but for the most part, I've seen more people, the majority of people, get it towards the end of A school. Now I've only seen one person get it when they were in boot camp, so that just goes to show that probably expected to get it when you're in A school. Now, next question comes from Future Sailor Hernandez. Future Sailor Hernandez asks, in my opinion, should you break up before you go to the Navy? Now, from my opinion, it doesn't matter. If you have a relationship and you're thinking about joining the Navy, now, is it going to be difficult because it's a long distance relationship, number one, and you go on deployments where communication lacks? Yes, it's going to be difficult, but that is part of relationships. That is part of life. That is part of 10% what happens and 90% how you react to it. Like, in my opinion, like, you shouldn't drop something just because something else is coming up, right? If you are in a long distance relationship and you're away for a long period of time, it's either going to make or break your relationship. In my opinion, if I was in that position, I would just carry it through. Now, when I'm in the Navy, it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, right? But you never want to go, in my opinion, with the what if. For example, I have a relationship and, Navy comes up, I have to go to the Navy, and I said, you know what, Navy, it's going to be hard, I'm dropping this. And then, once I'm in the Navy, and then, I'm thinking to myself, man, what if I was still in that relationship? What if? See, if you just carry it on through, and then when you're in, it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, and you never have the what if, right? So, I've seen people, when they have their relationship, and they're in the Navy right now, and, there's constant back and forth of, hey, you're not spending a lot of time. Hey, this is hard. I've seen that happen, right? And I've also seen people that's been in the Navy, that's gone through deployment, gone through being in the Navy for 20 years, and they have a very, very fantastic and strong relationship, right? Because when they're apart, even though that they are apart, even though one person's in a deployment and another person's in another side, because they trust each other so much and because they have so much faith in each other, their relationship is much, much more stronger compared to those who haven't experienced the difficulties. In my opinion, I'm not a relationship expert. That is just in my opinion. So, to answer the question, should you break up? In my opinion, no, just carry it on through. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it works out, it works out. Simple. Alright, so next question comes from Future Sailor Muelthaler. Why do some people not like Seabees? Now, I have personally not met someone who didn't like Seabees. Now, some of the reasons I would imagine, just by watching some videos of what Seabees do, it seems very difficult. You're in a combat zone, like you shoot guns and you could potentially die. That might be why some people don't like Seabees, because there's a chance that you might die. The percentage is greater, right? You shoot with guns and you're in a front line or a back line building bunkers or whatever. You might be in a not very cleanly zone, like, you work with mud and you get dirty a lot. So if you're more of a cleanly guy, like me, I like to be clean. I don't like to be in a wet, dirty environment where I feel miserable, right? Some people, I'm not too sure exactly that's what Seabees do, but from some of the videos, they get their hands dirty a lot. And they work long hours and they're, part combat and part, you know, builders, right? So I'm not too sure about Seabees. But anyway, I did hear that their promotion rate is pretty difficult. It's one thing. I've heard that there's a lot of Seabees and their promotion rate is difficult. So last question comes from Future Sailor Rhea. Can you ride bikes and skateboards when you're in NWU? So I know when you are riding your motorcycle that you have to wear certain protective gear. Now, as far as skateboard, you're going to be wearing boots. And I don't know much about skateboards, but if you're trying to skateboard in boots, I feel like that's pretty difficult. At the same time, can you ride a bike, like, you know, normal bike? I believe so. I'm not too sure if you have to wear a helmet or a certain type of protective gear. That, I believe, is going to depend on the command. But for the most part, I don't see a problem with that. But at the same time, for the most part, I never see anyone wearing an NWU on a skateboard or on a bike. So it is safe to say that you should be wearing your civilian gear when you are doing all these activities, skateboarding, bike, dirt biking, or whatever. So that is the question of the week. That is the Q&A session of the week. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great Navy day.